I would say one of the people that speaks their mind about the conscience of Wall Street and capitalism and business in America. And last time you were on, I just thought it was kind of interesting when we were talking about Khashoggi and that situation with Saudi Arabia. I asked you flat out, would you end doing business with Saudi Arabia? You said, no, absolutely not. And you were very honest about it. And here we are with a bond offering where everyone basically came around, I think, to your point of view. And I didn't see anyone say, no, I'm not going to take any of these fees for the bond business or participate in the offering. So once again, common sense, it's the real world, right? I mean, there are certain things you have to just sort of hold your nose and move forward.
Well, I wouldn't even say you have to hold your nose. As I said, I think when we spoke about Saudi Arabia, we do a lot of work there. We manage money for the Social Security Fund. We manage money for many fine people in Saudi Arabia. We still don't know the conclusion of the awful tragedy. Obviously, a lot of fingers are being pointed, but when I write in my CEO letters, I talk about you have to be local in every community you work in, and there is not any community in the world that is perfect. There are many extremes in every community, but in every community, you need to be working with the local community to be part of that community, and that's why we concluded we're going to continue to do business there. We did not go to that one conference. I've been back to Saudi since. I will be going there shortly again, among many other countries I'm traveling to. And so, you have to be deliberate, you have to be open, you have to be forthcoming. But I do believe what we are doing in Saudi does not go against what we talk about in trying to have corporate purpose.
No, I agree. And China, you're there a lot too. I mean, things aren't perfect in China.
And they're not perfect in most countries. There are extremes in many countries. And our job is to try to navigate around that, but also to have a conscience too. So I'm not here to suggest we are not evolving and changing, because we all are. Because I do believe society is now asking more and more.
But so here's the question: for companies to be a forcing mechanism, if you will, on some of these issues, how does BlackRock think about itself in that context, in a place like Saudi Arabia or in China? Is it so much around navigating around these issues, or is it around acting as a forcing mechanism in a place like Saudi by to the extent to the extent you're going to do business there, to somehow using your voice there to say to them, look, we're going to do business with you, but under these conditions, or we're going to do whatever it is?
In every community we work at, in Saudi or China or the U.S. or Mexico or anywhere else in Europe, we have to stand by our clients in those communities, and we have to be working with those clients in those communities. If you're truly going to be an international company and have businesses throughout the world, you cannot impart, let's say, U.S. or whatever. You have to try to find ways of working within the community and try to help that community change. There are things that we have global principles that we're not changing. One of the global principles we are working towards having at least 50% women, so gender neutrality worldwide. Compensation is the same between women and men. Doesn't matter where we operate. So we as a firm are trying to evolve and change and move forward, and we're trying to be a principled organization working with all the communities we want. In countries where there are issues, I don't want to name any one company, I've had private conversations about what we think they need to do to move forward. And they can or can, they may or may not listen to us, but we do have voice our concerns. But I think the fundamental issue is society is changing. And I wrote this in my last letter. Millennials are asking more of companies they do business with. Millennials are focusing on where they work. And so if you're going to be a company that is trying to attract the finest talent, a company that is reaching more and more of society, you have to be more mindful. And I do believe we're in a very deep political debate right now, and I do believe the role of public companies is going to become larger and larger. And I do believe the leaders of public companies or with their boards are going to have a stronger voice. And I do believe that stronger voice will lead to stronger profits.
Does that mean that you take the stand, or does that mean that you vote with your shares and take a stand?
It could be either, but BlackRock is standing up and taking, you know, I have representing BlackRock employees, BlackRock clients, BlackRock, all our stakeholders, our shareholders. We have a louder voice. We are also asking other CEOs, other chairs, other boards to have a louder voice. I do believe we have to be mindful, and you're hearing this from Jamie Dimon, you're hearing this from Ray Dalio, you're hearing from many people now, that there is a need for, I would say, more conscious capitalism. There is a need for more inclusive capitalism. And I said in my last 2 letters, society is frustrated that government's doing less for them.
Let me ask you a question real quick on that, though, because you saw Jamie Dimon was asked about it at the bank hearings last week about wages. You saw Jeff Bezos come out last week and sort of throw down the gauntlet on wages to Walmart. If all of these companies increase wages at the expense of their profits, at least in the short term, how does a BlackRock think about that? It may be good for society, but maybe bad for the stock.
But in the long run, if you're able to attract better employees and have more productivity, I mean, I can't answer the question with a limited information, but if they believe they are raising wages and are able to attract better employees, or employees, the same employees, but are now willing to work a little harder, they're more involved. If the output is better productivity, it may not deteriorate their margins. But once again, if you do that also, and if you raise the consciousness to your clients, and that produces more demand on your products, that may all turn out fine. So the question is, if you are just raising wages with the idea that it's not going to have any impact on your employees, not any impact on your...
These are private companies doing it. If you all of a sudden legislate in Seattle that you're going to $20 and suddenly businesses leave, it could be bad for society. It's not always just good for society that happens. It could be bad for the company.
The society where they are.
What's bad for companies aren't always good for society, Andrew. And it could be bad for society if there was a nationwide minimum wage of $20 could be actually.
But I would say very loudly, over the long run, having more engaged employees, stronger client connections.
These are private companies.
Larry,
thank you so much for being here.